I love Chinatown because it's a great spot where I see it all the time where people find connections to their own cultures, whether they're Spanish or Chinese or Korean or German, or there's a comfort that the neighborhood brings to them, and they can find something from their own, history or culture.
Our dad opened the restaurant in 1971, but he was working at our uncle's restaurant. It's one of the first Chinese restaurants in Ottawa. It was the Cafe House on Albert Street. And right now, it's a sushi place. But he worked there for a long time, and that's how a lot of Chinese, after the railroads, there was no work. So all there was left was Chinese laundromat and restaurant business, because they didn't let Chinese do anything else. Yeah. Or it was hard, and the English or whatever. Yes. So our dad worked there for a long time, and then he saved enough money to open this at Somerset. So originally, they say it's the first Chinese restaurant on Somerset Street, which it was, right? But this building used to be like a shoe store before. It used to be a Greek deli. And then what else? But our grandfather worked here as a waiter. So when he came to Canada, he chose to live in San Francisco because he just thought it was more fun on the coast. Yeah. So my dad came here, and they didn't see each other for like, I think 15 years until till our grandfather decided to be a waiter for my dad's restaurant. Oh, really? Yeah. So he's this little 80-year-old man waiter with the classic red jacket. Yeah. And then, his English wasn't too good and stuff. And I remember he on his breaks, he used to take his teeth out and put it in a cup on the side there. Yeah. So when people are going to the washroom, they see this, my grandfather's teeth it was in a clear glass with a beaver. It was a beaver with a RCMP outfit. So I remember when our grandfather passed away, me and my sister were fighting for that cup. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Helen got it. But that's just a good memory. Yeah. So all our aunts and our grandmothers, we used to be in the basement to make pastries. We used to do dim sum every Sunday. So we used to make our pastries in the basement, and all that nice slave labor. But it was fun. We all worked here, washing dishes. We just stand on a little crate, and our parents used to give us like 25 cents for every rack that we washed. Oh, wow. Yeah.
What is my story? I was born and raised in Ottawa pretty much my whole life, with the exception of going to Toronto and stuff for art college. So being born and raised downtown in Chinatown, working at the restaurant, thinking I know so much about the community because I help organize the art festival and I go door to door, and then I do I was invited by an organization to be a tour guide of the neighborhood recently, last year. So I had to do more in-depth research about the actual, neighborhood and the history of it and the architecture of it. So I got a different perspective of, what my kind of home neighborhood is. And it was really interesting because the architecture and the community before it was Chinatown, before like I knew it was Chinatown was different, and then learning about like the different families that came here and immigrated here, and the churches that have been here for a long time. Like,
I noticed that there are
yeah.
many churches, like one here, the other one.
yeah, so it really opened my perspective of like what a multicultural community is and the history of the neighborhood, like the history of the street. Like someone on the tour, like you meet different people, like really interesting people that love and have a passion for heritage too. So they don't mind sharing their story with you. So on the tour, as a tour guide, I learned a lot just from listening to what people told me. And one guy told me that Somerset Street was, before it was one street, it was four different streets, and they were named differently. And then the city kind of merged them together and called it. Yeah. So stuff like that, you know, you live in a space for so long, and you think you know it, and it's your neighborhood, and then you just kind of scratch a different layer, and then look at it differently, and then, so I found like being a tour guide was really rewarding, because I'm 45 now, and that's as old as the restaurant, and we have stories of like, you know, when our parents used to bring us down the street to the Italian barbers who are still there. We were just kids, a little bit older than your little one. And then they would give us haircuts. Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, good one.
But yeah, my dad sponsored a lot of relatives to come here to Canada, and then like he got a lot of awards to help the Chinese community. And there's like, you know, all these immigrants, they don't, you know, it's like that in every community. You have, let's say the Greek community, some old Greek person could live in 4 blocks, right? So of course Chinatown has been evolving and getting bigger, but there's still only like little old Chinese ladies that don't know any English. So our dad started a group to help Chinese people who don't speak English to get their pensions. So my dad was really good with the community.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but you have to meet our dad to know him. But he had a stroke like over 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So he lost his speech, and but he still can talk really okay. He can hear better, but he's just old. So I always tell this story. It was one of, you know, there's a Chinese embassy. Have you ever seen the Chinese embassy?
No, I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, when you see it, you'll see it's huge. It's where there's Parliament Hill. You keep going further down.
Yes.
It's on St. Patrick. So if you look up Chinese embassy, our father found that building for the Chinese embassy to be used as, and it used to be an old nunnery. So it's all like looks like a church. Like it looks like a like, you know,
Like a prison.
yeah, like a mausoleum. Like
Yeah.
so. Anyways, our dad chose that for the Chinese embassy. And back then, the government was still like, they didn't know much about China, so they always thought they're all communists, and they were, whatever, relations wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So anyways, when our dad had a stroke, he was in the hospital maybe 8 months, and whatever, all the rehab. So our dad wasn't in a wheelchair, he was just walking, you know, whatever, a little slow. So one of his university friends was the new ambassador, because they change every 3 or 4 years. So we used to go, when we were little, we used to go play basketball and play in the embassy, because our dad knew everybody. So, anyways, my dad's new friend was the ambassador. And so you know it's like the Queen of England. You go down the line, you go, oh hi, oh this is my wife, this is the vice president, blah blah.
Yeah.
So my dad goes and sees his buddy. He's like, you, and then he says in Chinese, you motherfucker, how you doing? And it sounds really bad in Chinese, right? And you know, bad word.
Yeah.
And so my mom's like, no, daddy, don't say that. And everybody's, oh no, he's really good. That's really good. He's so clear. We hear him very clearly. And then my mom's like, oh, he's doing good. He's independs. And like independs is like, it's diapers.
Okay.
Independence.
Okay.
And so, but my mom is like, independent. We're like, independent, ma. Yeah, independs. So we're like, joking, he's not wearing a diaper, ma. So everybody's like, oh, it's good, Alan, good to see you. So he's so happy. So he loves to swear because he says it so clearly after his stroke.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But we're lucky because we've had like 3 generations of families. So even like we have been working here on and off our whole lives.
Yeah.
So even now, like just the other day, we have customers, they've been coming here for 28 years. So they moved to England, and when they just came back from England, they came here their first week.
Yeah.
And so I know their children before they were born. So that's like my dad when he says like, oh my God, I know you for a long, long time. And I'm like, we're do the same because we know the children, like 27-year-olds. When we knew them when they were babies, come here. It's crazy, right? It's so crazy.
Well, there's another funny story, like organizing the festival was a great opportunity to talk to the business owners, because you know, in any business, especially food and restaurant, it's very competitive, right? So you're like, oh, my recipes are mine and my clientele are ours. It's like intense that way. So what I liked about organizing the festival, like the first few years, was going into shops and building relationships with different businesses and kind of breaking that wall down that kind of separated businesses, you know, and then finding that, you know, everybody kind of found out, you know, we all have more in common than differences. We're all working hard, long hours. We all want the same. So
Trying to survive.
yeah. So I found that was really cool. And then when, you know, there's so many language barriers in Chinatown. So, and even in Chinese community, there's like different dialects. Cantonese, Mandarin, and then
Inside them, there are different.
inside there's more. So there's like, altogether there's about 50 dialects.
Oh,
And then my dialect is Toisanese, which is a southern dialect. That's what our parents taught us. So if I went into the Double Happiness barbecue place one time, and he doesn't speak my dialect, he doesn't speak and he doesn't speak English, right? So I remember going in there trying to solicit him to be part of the festival, because he has a beautiful space. It's just like, you know, his barbecue pork hangs there, and his duck, and the walls are white, like gallery style white. I thought this is perfect. They should be part of the festival. So I go in and I try and explain it to him and his wife, and then like what the festival's about. And then afterwards he was like, he didn't understand a word I said. So what he did was he just cut off a piece of barbecue pork, a huge chunk, and just handed it to me. I think he thought he wanted to order food.
Who is this? Double Happiness?
Yeah. So then I brought my brother, because my brother is
Better
he
Chinese.
speaks better than me. So yeah, so to this day, he's still 9 years later, he's still part of the festival. He comes in and even though we can't communicate dialect, he'll just give me a thumbs up. when he sees me, and he'd be like, yes, yeah. So art kind of is a good way to like bridge gaps between businesses and cultures.